Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I am Katina Odom, Executive Officer for the Patrol Services Group. Every quarter, CMPD provides a public safety briefing to be transparent and share what we are doing to manage crime and collaborate with our community. Today, we will be sharing our first quarter statistics covering January 1st through March 31st, 2025. Throughout the first quarter, overall crime in Charlotte is down 6% as compared to 2024. Violent crime is down 17% for the quarter. Now, when we talk about violent crime, we're talking about homicides, rapes, robberies, aggravated assaults, which includes shootings. Property crime is down 4% for the quarter. Property crime includes residential and commercial burglaries, auto thefts, and larcenies. The Kia Hyundai Social Media Challenge is an ongoing situation we have been sharing, and efforts continue as auto thefts are down 21%. We are proud of the positive start to the year and the hard work put in each day by the men and women of this department to ensure Charlotte remains a safe city. As we continue to review the crime statistics for the first quarter of 2025, we want to address the important distinction between perception and reality. We hear comments about safety in Charlotte. However, these first quarter statistics offer clear, data-supported perspective. Charlotte remains a safe city, as evidenced by the overall crime reduction achieved through the department's data-driven strategies. It's important to remember the decrease in crime with significant summer events coming up. This summer, Charlotte will host several large outdoor events. Some of these events will include the second Love and Life Music Festival, followed by the PGA Championship, both in May. Our officers are specially trained to handle large crowds, provide a visible presence, and diffuse any issues before they escalate. We don't want the perception of higher crime to be inaccurately influenced by isolated incidents when that is just not the case. The information we are sharing today is to provide a clear window into the current crime statistics tracked by our organization and to show how we have proactively worked within our agency to lower these statistics. We have three other speakers who will delve into the success stories of the first quarter, starting with Deputy Chief David Robinson. Deputy Chief.
Thank you. First of all, welcome to everybody here and joining us online. We're happy to report these first quarter crime statistics. We're proud of them. We're proud of the work, and we're proud that you're here to share that with us. As Lieutenant Odom said, I am David Robinson. I've had the privilege of serving in this organization for the better part of 29 years. And I supervise the Patrol Services Group. So on behalf of the nearly 1,200 men and women who wear this uniform proudly every day and do this amazing work, it is not without some emotion to say that understanding the gravity of that is not lost on anybody. And the people that we hear from in the community who support what we do consistently tell us that. So we thank them for the opportunity to serve. Began my career here in 1996. Charlotte was a very different city than what we see now. They say you measure a city's success by the number of cranes and buildings you see. Well, and if that's the litmus test, then Charlotte is booming. Population was half of what it is today, and the CMPD was only 3 years removed from a merger with the county police department. Over the years, CMPD has evolved and made tremendous strides to improve public safety across our 411 square miles of service area. One challenge we face each day is not an offender or a crime trend. In fact, it's the perception that Charlotte is an unsafe city. We take issue with that. Charlotte is indeed a safe and thriving city, or else you wouldn't see the buildings, the events, and the opportunities that brought many of you in this room to this city. It's a city of opportunity. It's a city of truth. And it's a city that we're proud to protect and serve. Across every service area and square mile, our officers, our detectives, our investigators, our civilian staff continue to do an incredible job of delivering clear and measurable results. And by no means are we here to spike the football today and talk about how crime's down and everybody should just stop paying attention. In fact, we say crime's down, let's continue that. We say crime's down, let's double down. That's what we're here to do. One crime is one too many. You hear a lot about what the police or the justice system is doing or not doing, and I can tell you on behalf of the nearly 2,700 employees that work, both sworn and civilian, in this organization, it's our top priority. This all comes from a multitude of proactive efforts that fall under officer activities, which range from interviews to raids to casual engagement with citizens while officers are on patrol. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But in the first quarter, our officer activities are up 8%. And I'm going to give you some stats. We'll give them to you after. We've seized nearly 1,000 firearms, 933 to be exact, which is up 15% from the first quarter of 2024. Where are those guns coming from? Over half of them are stolen. Stolen out of other jurisdictions or stolen out of this jurisdiction. I urge you, if you own a gun, if you carry a gun, legally, lawfully, protect that firearm. It's unconscionable that we have over half the guns that we've seized just in the first quarter come from stolen property. Our officers have made nearly 4,200 arrests, up 10% from the same time last year. That tells me we have a vibrant workforce who's engaged in what the mission is. That tells me that the chief's vision of a safer Charlotte starts with the activities that our officers do, and if violations of the law are found, we make arrests. 4,149, up 10% from this time last year. Homicides, and I'm looking around the room and know where each of you work. Each of your agencies wanted to be the first ones to talk about homicides being up this year in spite of the great work. And what I'll tell you is, yeah, we're down 38%. One death is one too many. One death at the hands of another human being, whether justified or not, whether in the heat of the moment, whether domestic related, whether random. And I do know that we have a very small number of random crimes when it comes to homicide in this jurisdiction. But I'll tell you that one homicide is one too many. But through the first quarter, we've had 20 homicides versus 32 last year. Although this is a decrease, we, as I said, acknowledge that every loss of life is tragic, and we work every day to avoid that. I would urge people who are trapped in dangerous relationships or in a dangerous lifestyle to think about what I just said, because I don't want to see you become the next victim. I can tell you this, our detectives in our investigations bureau work diligently around the clock, in some cases to the detriment of their own families, to solve every case and to provide closure to victims' families. We've also experienced significant drops in robberies. We're down 20%, aggravated assaults down 15%, residential burglaries down 9%, vehicle thefts down 21%. Again, to echo what Lieutenant Odom said about our Kia Hyundai thefts, we're proud that those are down, but we've still got work to do. Like any major city, we're seeing isolated incidents, again, that create the perception that Charlotte is unsafe. But again, when you analyze the data, you find that these incidents don't represent the reality of public safety within the city. And I'd encourage everybody in this room to go walk around uptown, walk around different parts of this city, and you'll see that indeed there's vibrancy and there are people out living, working, and playing in this jurisdiction that don't subscribe to that fear. For the first quarter of 2025, our commercial burglaries are up 54%. There's a reason for that across our service area, though the context for that is really important. Repeat offenders are a significant part of our commercial burglary statistics. But we believe a state law aimed at habitual larceny offenders will reduce the numbers over time. So if I continue to steal from a Walgreens and we continue to see you in court, judges can ban you from that Walgreens, and then if you go back to that Walgreens, that counts as a commercial burglary because you weren't supposed to be there in the first place. Someone with a history of theft enters that business with the intent to steal. They can be charged with commercial burglary, as I said, which is a Class D felony. Despite the perception created by isolated incidents, in reality, we're seeing a significant drop in violent and property crime. We talk a lot about partnerships. We talk a lot about our community members and aligning priorities. So if your priority is a particular issue in your community, in your neighborhood, we want to align with you and help solve those problems. A forward-thinking initiative that's contributed to this drop in crime and to that partnership and alignment with priorities is a program called CMPD Chats, and also our Connect Charlotte program. Chats, or community huddles, and we'll put this out in the press release so you'll get to see it. Community Huddles Addressing Targeted Solutions is a new initiative designed to increase communication and collaboration with the community to address concerns in a specific neighborhood. It's not just about showing up at meetings, but listening, engaging, and aligning with residents and business owners in this area. As I'm talking to you who may be watching or hearing this, if it's a priority to you, it's a priority to us, and we want to help you solve those problems. By making those conversations intentional, scheduled, setting shared goals, CMPD can better serve and support our community and its members. Since this initiative began in March, we've held multiple chats meetings across the city with a very positive response from the community. By the end of April, we will have held 3 chats meetings in each of our 13 divisions, totaling over 39 meetings, and these will continue. Just this far, we have noticed an increased collaborative effort with our community, and we appreciate that. We couldn't do it without the community. These conversations delve into a variety of issues, as you might expect, that impact public safety, from street lighting, parking, trash, to quality of life concerns. Another proactive policing solution helping prevent and solve property crime is the Connect Charlotte program. Many of you in this room have helped us push that, and we appreciate it. With Connect Charlotte, residents and businesses can leverage technology. They can register or integrate their security cameras at their individual locations or residences. This allows the CMPD to build an interactive map of security cameras in Charlotte that increases the efficiency of direct, discrete, and secure video evidence collection. There are over 981, almost 1,000 residential cameras so far, and over 874 businesses who have registered. I will call those people pioneers in trust, because we're not out to look at your camera. We're out to partner with you so that if something does happen, we're able to make that link much easier. It allows for quick registration. It's easy and free, allowing investigators to know that a camera is present in the area and easily request video evidence should an incident occur. Rest assured, registering a residential camera does not, I repeat, does not allow CMPD to access a live video stream. This is not Big Brother. This is reasonable, this is thoughtful, and this has been very effective. For more information on that, please visit connectcharlotte.org. Now, we understand that some of people in this community have a perception that is negative, but the reality is that the people that we hear from and talk to, for the most part, think that Charlotte remains a safe city, in large part to that partnership we talked about, and the proactive, reasonable, responsible efforts that our men and women make every single day. So whether that's leveraging technology or using data to drive operations, CMPD prioritizes proactively and strategically serving our community. So we're proud of the reduction in the violent and property crime of the first quarter. And we're also proud of the work that our people have done. But we're not satisfied. We operate in a data-driven environment. We're always going to follow that data. We're always going to put officers where we have the most issues. But we never want to over-police a community. We want to partner with people to hear what their needs are and to establish a reasonable platform for progress and community safety. I want to thank our patrol officers I want to thank our detectives, our crime scene investigators, our crime lab personnel. I want to thank our civilian staff. I want to thank everybody who works at this organization, our dispatchers, our telecommunicators who take the nearly 1 million 911 calls a year. They're the true heroes. I get to stand up here and talk about it. But the simple fact is that in my 3 decades with this department, we've come a long way in delivering top-notch customer service, forming creative and impactful initiatives and partnerships with the community, and positioning the department for further growth and long-term success. We want to ensure safety and ensure a sense of understanding that public safety is a shared commitment by everybody in this city, whether you wear a badge or not. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Major Brett Balamucky, who will discuss Core 13, another program and initiative that we're proud of that's designed to target areas of violent crime and high victimization. Major Balamucky.
Thank you, Chief. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited. I'm Major Brett Balamucky. I am the major over our Patrol Southeast service area. I'm here to talk about another effort that CMPD implemented at the end of last year, which is the Coordinated Overlap Response Effort, which is our Core 13. The victimization, this initiative was originally created to decrease victimization of our citizens in Charlotte. After Core 13 was launched in the 4th quarter of last year, the department saw immediate successes with seizing firearms, making arrests, and most importantly, decreasing victimization of our citizens. While some may perceive CMPD's response to be reactive by using the data to make strategic operational decisions, the reality is CMPD is fighting crime proactively, and we're seeing those results. The Core 13 strategically places officers across CMPD without borders in the areas that are identified that have the most victimization for our communities. These areas are identified with the help of our crime analyst team, our operational command lieutenants, and our real-time crime center that works each night. Core 13 officers are deployed to these areas, and CMPD is continuing to see the results of this, the success of this initiative. In the 1st quarter of 2025, the Core 13 has addressed 82 violent crime incidents in our focus areas and have made 25 arrests with the seizures of 17 firearms. But most importantly, we are seeing a reduction in violent crime incidents in these Core 13 focus areas, which means lower victimization in the locations that have consistent high numbers. In the Steel Creek Division, between I-77 South Boulevard, Archdale, and Arrowwood, there's been a 37% drop in violent crime incidents in the 1st quarter compared to last year. In another one of the Core 13 focus areas, which is Beatties Ford Road in LaSalle, also a corridor of opportunity, we've seen a 60% reduction in violent crime or violent incidents from 1st quarter. Core 13 is making an impact in the areas that need it most. In a recent case that involved Core 13 in our Steel Creek Division, officers located a stolen vehicle on Archdale Drive. When they find the stolen vehicle, they see an AR-style rifle and suspected marijuana in the car. They use surveillance. They figure out where the driver is inside of a hotel room. At the end of this investigation, they seize over 1,000 grams of marijuana, 300 in cash, the rifle that you see behind me, and ammunition. The suspect, Mr. DeMarco Monfries Brown, he was taken into custody. He's a convicted felon. He shouldn't have had that rifle. He wasn't allowed to possess that rifle. He was charged with possession of stolen motor vehicle, possession of firearm by felon, felony maintained dwelling, sell and distribute of drugs. He was PWISD, which is possession with intent to sell and deliver marijuana, and also drug paraphernalia. You know, by disrupting the flow of drugs and illegal firearms from the streets, the initiative continues to bolster the confidence of the residents in these most highly victimized areas to ensure that they're safe on the street. CMPD is proud of the dedication and hard work of all our employees as we change perceptions in the community and create a reality of a safer Charlotte. In another way in which we create this reality through our transportation initiatives, I'd like to introduce Major Michael Ford from the Special Services Bureau, who will give you details on that. Major Ford.
Good morning. My name is Major Michael Ford over the Special Services Bureau. I'm happy to provide an update on the work from several divisions within our Special Services Bureau throughout the first quarter of 2025. Our teams continue to focus on safety, efficiency, and innovation, particularly in how we manage traffic, motor vehicle crashes, and special events across our service area. You have heard us discuss the patrol functions of CMPD. Now I want to highlight another vital component of our department that has a significant and visible presence in our community, the Transportation Division. This team plays a critical role in keeping our city moving safely and efficiently. They're on the front lines of proactive traffic enforcement, motor vehicle crash response, and event coordination, all aimed at improving quality of life for our residents and visitors. Specifically, I would like to start by highlighting the efforts of our Motors Unit. Since January 1st, the Motors Unit has conducted 11 targeted operations across high-injury network corridors. These are streets where we see a higher frequency of fatal and serious injury crashes. I am pleased to report that we have year-to-date seen a 20% decrease in crashes involving serious injury. However, one victim is too many, so the work must continue. As part of the statewide Vision Zero initiative, our Motors Unit is leading weekly operations in these areas to proactively reduce dangerous driving behaviors. These include speeding, impaired driving, distracted driving, and seatbelt violations. Their work in the first quarter has resulted in 2,386 traffic stops. That's an increase of over 119% over the same time period last year. They have also issued 2,952 citations. That's an increase of 111% over the same time period last year. This proactive enforcement is making our roadways safer for everyone who uses them. While enforcement is one side of the coin, responsiveness is the other. Our Accident Reconstructive Unit is a group of dedicated detectives who investigate these serious injury and fatal crashes. In December of last year, we launched a new unit called the Civilian Crash Investigative Unit. In the first quarter, this 15-person unit has responded to over 2,000 non-injury traffic crashes and assisted with nearly 3,000 calls for service. That's 38% of the total crashes CMPD handled during that same time frame. This unit has had a significant impact. Not only has it allowed our sworn officers to remain available for higher priority calls, but it's also ensured that citizens involved in minor crashes receive timely, professional service. As we continue to look at how we can operate more efficiently across the Bureau, our Special Events Division has been exploring innovative ways to reduce the strain that large-scale events place on sworn resources. One major effort has been the expansion of the Civilian Traffic Control Officer Program, also known as CTCO. This expansion was rolled out citywide, including training nearly 50 additional civilians from CMPD and other departments within the city of Charlotte. These employees are now qualified to support traffic control during events, helping to reduce the dependence on sworn officers for those assignments. Thanks to the combined impact of the expanded CTCO program, the strong performance of our Civilian Crash Investigation Unit, and support from across the department, we're recently able to eliminate the need for an on-duty staffing pool during a recent major event, something that would have required us to reassign officers from other critical duties. With many large-scale events planned this summer, with some of which were mentioned earlier, this is a great example of how creative solutions and collaboration can make a big difference. Not only does this benefit our department, but it also benefits the community we serve. In closing, I want to thank all the men and women of the Special Services Bureau for their commitment to safety, service, and innovation. The first quarter of 2025 has laid a strong foundation for the rest of the year, and I look forward to the continued progress as we move ahead. Now, I would like to invite Lieutenant Odom back up as we wrap up this briefing. Thank you.
Major Ford. This concludes our first quarter public safety briefing. At this time, we will take any questions you have on the information that was presented.
In the end of your report, when Chief Jennings was here, he mentioned that the department is going to look at getting drones to help respond to some emergency situations. Is there any more info on where those purchased, when will that launch, anything like that?
We're still working on it. It's a work in progress, and you can imagine that anytime you leverage what other jurisdictions like New York City and Las Vegas have defined as success, that there's going to be a understanding and learning curve for us here as well. I think, honestly, the first time I heard about drones, I was like, whoa, 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 what is that, right? But then when you see the capabilities of what drones can do, you quickly become understanding of how that is a game changer for our ability to gather the most important data that we need as our officers respond to these oftentimes high incident calls. Just imagine the capability that would give us. To do that, you got to have a community that trusts you, and I think that's where we are now, is defining what the community wants, and I believe that we're on our way. The feedback we've gotten, the support that we've received from the community, both direct, anecdotal, and financial, has been significant, and we'll continue to build that out and develop that as we move forward. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jesse, WCMC. I know one big thing at the end of year safety report was about the shooting into dwellings, and you guys started the switch program, et cetera. So any data now, and what are trends showing, as we're looking at this first quarter, and then are you guys getting tips, calls, or, those rewards, is that coming out?
So I can tell you, there's two things that have happened. One is when we roll something out, I think sometimes people are like, is that for real, number one? We changed a little bit of our paradigm, if you're familiar with our Crime Stoppers initiative, which is what leads to a conviction. Oftentimes that's a years-long process. The SWITCH program provides a monetary reward for an arrest, for information that leads to a viable arrest. We're starting to see some life in that. What I can tell you is, even before the initiative was rolled out, is a highly trained, dedicated team led by one of our best sergeants, who is a former detective who's invested in this work and who takes it personally every time a bullet flies through somebody's house. And so what I'll say to the community is, and again, we're hoping that in the second and third quarter we'll be able to come back and say, wow, look at the effect of that, just as we've done with Core 13, just as we've done with chats, just as we've done with our civilian traffic direction, is that we want to see growth and progress. And our chief is a visionary that says, hey, let's try that and see how it works. And I can tell you that we're off to a good start. Yes, sir.
And speaking of the civilian crash unit, you guys have had some success with it. Are there any plans to expand it since it's clearly working, right?
We want to, and I'm going to tell you what we've gotten from the public has been, wow, I didn't know you guys did that. And what I can say is that scaling that is only going to help the response of our sworn officers get to calls quicker. It's going to help with our response times. It's going to help you not sit in a parking lot for 3 hours waiting for a sworn officer to get there, when a highly trained specialist who just happens to not carry a gun and a badge can come out and do the same thing. These are the innovative strategies that the chief talks about. These are the things that drive what we're seeing today. It's not by chance. It's not by happenstance. So, yes, we want to see that. There are things out of our control that deal with budgets and the politics, I think, of getting something like that off the ground. It costs money. But what we have seen is it's been wildly successful. I think we're up over 23 or 400 crashes thus far that our civilians have responded to since we rolled that out. What else? Hunter, you got something for me today.
Well, can you talk about, I'll take the rest, please. Can you,
Brent?
Can you talk about what specifically Core 13 is doing, like give specific examples to bring the violent crime down in Beatty's Ford, Still Creek, maybe University, West Charlotte, North Lake?
Sure.
Can you talk about
specific
things that you guys are doing?
So our staffing models are by design. And what that means is we put people, we bring people to work that are at our most call for service dense times. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's what it means. So when we have more call volume, we want to have more staffing here. And what that created was what we call an overlap, which means between second and third shift, we have a few hours where we have 2 shifts here to handle increased call volume. Again, I say this isn't about, it's never about leadership as far as when you have a good idea, right? We talk about that all the time where somebody says, what if we took this group of people and did something different? Leadership then says, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Let's expand on that. And that's what's happened here. Take Steel Creek, for example, what we affectionately call the U, which is Nations Ford, Arrowwood, and Archdale. Right there at 77, if you get off there going northbound, you're in the U. There's a Circle K there, an Econo Lodge, I think it is. But the simple fact of the matter is, and I became a sergeant in 2003, went out there as a sergeant, never having worked that side of town. I knew very quickly what the U was. It's where we had multiple shootings, stabbings, homicides, robberies, vehicle thefts. And no matter what we did, we couldn't get over the hump of, we could have momentary crime reduction, we could have some collaborative efforts with the community, but we continued to say, gosh, we just need people to kind of be here and to do operations in that area to really make an area feel different. And that's what we've done with Core 13. So if we look at an area like the U, for example, and say, look, during these set hours or during other hours during the 24-hour cycle, we're going to have a multitude of people in there to go out and build bridges and talk to people and to be creative. Yes, it involves enforcement. It involves traffic stops. It involves seeing a high presence of officers to say, hey, if I'm a criminal, I don't want to be there. I'm going to go somewhere else. And so when you think about displacement, really haven't seen that. What we've seen are people saying, hey, maybe it's time for me to change my ways. And we're proud of that work. So it involves enforcement. It involves conversations. It involves taking the time. And those officers, I will say, Brett, to your question, they're not subject to being called on for 911 calls at that moment, unless it happens in that area. So they're focused and targeted in that area on the crime problem. That's the goal. So, yes, ma'am.
You mentioned 933 guns seized this quarter, 15% more than the first quarter of last year. You also said the majority of these guns are stolen property.
That's correct.
What do you make of that? How do what does it mean for the community that many more guns were taken off the street? But what do you make of that they are majority stolen property?
So again, I go back to what I said earlier, which is we need responsible gun ownership in this jurisdiction. We don't need you to come in here and leave your vehicle unlocked with a .45 under the seat. It doesn't work because chances are it's going to fall into the wrong hands. And a lot of times, as you've seen with our JADE team and our juvenile crime efforts, is that those guns going into the hands of a 13 or 14-year-old child very oftentimes have negative outcomes. And so, not to mention the fact that when you have people who put guns in the hands of people that then go out and sell them again, use them in a robbery, right? Go out and commit that violent crime, it's just bad all the way around. So what I would say to people is, don't store anything in your car you're not prepared to lose, number one, and that's a universal truth, but especially when it comes to firearms. Be more responsible. Get a gun lock that's a box that goes in your trunk that no one can steal from. Don't just leave it visible for somebody to see. And I'll say this too, when you hear those numbers, over 1,000 guns taken off the street, in most cases that means there's almost 1,000 interactions with somebody by a police officer who has a gun on them. And so if you think back to times where you see police officers across the country or within this jurisdiction encountering people where the outcome is negative, where there's some type of loss of life or injury or an officer-involved shooting, God forbid, nobody ever wants to do that. But you think about over 1,000 guns, that's 1,000 interactions, that's 1,000 encounters that our men and women are out here doing bravely, knowing that the outcome could be. Now, you put a gun in the mix, it's one thing to walk up to a perfect stranger. It's another thing to walk up to a perfect stranger that you believe may be armed. And I would argue that our people are extraordinarily professional when it comes to that, among hundreds of other ways that I could describe that. But I'm glad you asked that question. That's a significant issue for us. Firearms always change the equation. Yes, sir.
What is a registered versus integrated camera in the Connect Charlotte program?
That would be on the website, and I'm not a technical guy, But I can tell you that those questions are on that Connect Charlotte website. It's been a very beneficial program thus far, and we want to see that grow.
I guess in terms of that then, if somebody does register the camera, are they notified some way that CMPD might act like, or does CMPD send something like, we might access, or we have accessed your camera and we feel that for evidence in this, or?
I know there's a whole laundry list of Q&As that we give people, and I know those questions are answered. And again, I would have, I'd love to be more up on exactly the specifics of that. But again, yes, those questions will be answered.
I got two for you,
Okay.
if you don't mind. The first one, you say that there is a perception problem in this city with people in the community. I think what could drill it home even more, could you explain, let's take the homicides being down, I believe 38% is what you said. How many of the 20 are random versus targeted? Because a lot of the crime that we see out there, it seems to be a targeted crime that happens out there.
Yeah, we preach all the time about high-risk lifestyles lead to negative outcomes. And again, one homicide being one too many, but if you're involved in a drug transaction where both people bring guns to the table, one or two might be stolen, and that results in somebody getting shot and losing their lives, I would argue strenuously, how do the police impact that? Other than having to be there at the right time to know what's going on, to make a contact with somebody to interrupt that? You could say, well, that happens a lot. We just don't know it because it doesn't become a homicide. But I say, too, when you come to a domestic violence situation where somebody is trapped in an abusive relationship and resources are elusive or have failed somebody or they don't take the opportunity with that, those, too, have negative outcomes and consequences. And so, again, I think, Hunter, if it bleeds, it leads. And a lot of times the real meat of the story gets buried in the headline. And I would tell you all in this room, and I don't mind saying it, if we were 22% up in crime or even 17% up in crime, I guarantee you that'd be the headline on everybody's newscast tonight or in everybody's print media or on everybody's radio station. But because we're 17% down in violent crime, where's that going to land tonight? Is it going to be buried under what happened in Cherryville or Gastonia or some other county? Who knows? The simple fact is we're proud of the work we do. Again, never satisfied. But if it bleeds, it leads. We understand that. And we fight that all the time. Because your chances of being victimized by crime, let alone violent crime, within this city are exponentially smaller than anyone really gives us credit for. And I say us, credit as a city.
My follow-up to that, what do you say to the victims who still feel like they have been violated in some way, shape, or form? Maybe perhaps not by violent crime, but by some of this other crime, automobile larcenies, things that still are technically up. What do you tell them if they feel like there's a perception problem or not?
I say I understand. And I say that partner with us. Partner with us. That person who got their car or truck broken into might have been the gun that got stolen that's been now used in a homicide. So I say partner with us. I say focus on the relationship that you have with the officer that works your neighborhood. I say focus on the efforts that we put out on our socials across the board. We put out a couple of videos recently that got, I think, over 60 or 70,000 views, and that was a good thing for us. It should be 6 million views. It should be people who want to see how we do it in Charlotte and who understand the importance of a safe city, because a safe city is where people want to move and live and work and play, like I said. And so, again, counter it with, we're having large outdoor music festivals. We have multiple professional sports and collegiate sports here in this city, and hey, this is where we are. So, anything else? Thank you all for being here.